Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
So welcome to a Coffee with Karen, a cup of positivity with just a sprinkling of woo-woo. But if you've been listening recently, you will notice that it is no longer a sprinkling. We're moving you forward. We're transitioning you. So each week, my guests will tend to be in the, I would say, the holistic health arena in some way, whether that's from the mental, the physical, or the spiritual perspective, or in general, the people that I tend to have on this show these days are really covering all three, as we all should, because it is all one. So your host, my name is Karen Roberts. Yes, I suppose I would consider myself a holistic transformation coach. I am about motivation, I suppose, a little bit more. I just want to help people find their mojo, get themselves back on track and in tune with whatever it is that they want to do. So my lovely guest this week is coming from across the waterway there. She's in France. So Sylviane, if you could share with the listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, and share a little bit of your story.
Okay. Well, I am French and American, both kind of, right? I spent half of my life in France and the other half in America. And then just a few years ago, I came back to France. I've been coaching since 2009. I got first interested in the law of attraction. And I've read all the big teachers, Napoleon Hill, Joseph Murphy, and many, many others, Florence Scovel-Shinn. And I improved my life to some degree a little bit, but it's really when I discovered Neville Goddard, which is a mystic from the 20th century, that really changed my life, because then I learned the law of assumption, which is a step up from the law of attraction, so to speak.
Awesome. It sounds like it's the same, but people's perception of it is different. The law of assumption says to me the law of almost expectation. We have to expect. Is that what it is, or is that something similar?
Well, it's more than expecting, unless you're referring to expecting as you're sure of it. Like you expect waking up in the morning, like you pretty much sure you won't be dead. So in that regard, yeah, it's expectation. But if expectation is like hoping for the best, then that's not that. The law of assumption is you create your world, because the basic concept is consciousness is the only reality. So your consciousness, what you are conscious of, is what manifests in your world. So it's way, way more than expectation as hoping for the best type thing.
Makes sense. So interesting that the first person you mentioned there, Napoleon Hill. I have to say that the Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich, was that the author?
Yeah, exactly. Well, he wrote other books, but that's the most famous one. Yeah.
Well, that was the first book, I suppose, which was my introduction to self-development. And oh dear, my daughter's 22, so 21 years ago, I think that was my first introduction to the self-development world. I know we've just lost Bob Proctor, who was probably the next one that I followed. And funnily enough,
I met him a long time ago as well.
Oh, really? I've never met him. I did do the seminar, the You Were Born Rich. And again, that was probably about 20 years ago. And the three things that I wrote down on the course that I wanted Number one was to own my own fitness studio. Number two was to own my own house. I didn't own my own house then. And 3 was drive a 4x4. Well, at that time, little did I know, we were still living in London. We moved to the Algarve in 2003. I was 7 months pregnant. No plan of opening our own studio. But if it wasn't for Bob Proctor, and the coach had actually rung me, obviously to sell the coaching program, which at that time we just didn't have the funds. We'd just moved. And Bob was going to be in The Secret. It wasn't going to be a film as it ended up being. It was going to be a documentary, I think, in Australia.
Yeah. Mm.
And so we said, well, we've pre-ordered it. And he said to me, the best piece of advice I think I've ever got was, there is so much depth to that film. Watch it twice a day for a month. And at the time, I thought he was crazy. But we did. On the back of that, about 5 years later, I did actually reach out to the people that had sent me on the Born Rich program and said, I achieved it. We owned our own fitness studio. On the back of it, we owned our first house in Portugal. And I wasn't allowed to drive in car, so we had to get a 4x4 truck through the business. So we did everything that Bob Proctor had taught on that course. And bless him, he's so yes, I owe a lot to that man myself.
Yeah, we've all learned from him. Anyone that's been in this field for many years, like you and me, yeah, he was one of the first people I heard from, Bob Proctor. Yeah.
So how did you then swear? So this, so how did you find yourself with this, following this other teacher?
Well, because for me and for many, many people, so I'm glad I'm not the only one, there was a missing link in that law of attraction thing, because a lot of teachers in the law of attraction, they teach you that there is a universe, a universe outside of you that may or may not help you or grant you your desire, or you may have some type of karma to pay, or whatever else, It is really not. I mean, for a lot of people, there's like this missing link. I'm like a little bit in control, but not 100% in control. And there may be, that universe outside of me that may or may want to grant me my desire. And there's also that alignment thing and vibrations. Sometimes those things can be very vague. What's a vibration? I don't know. I don't have, truthfully, what is a vibration, So the way Neville Goddard says it, very, very, it's very bold, and it offended a lot of people, by the way. People who have had religious backgrounds or certain beliefs. Neville says, you are God, all right? It doesn't mean you need to put yourself on a pedestal and start to be arrogant about it, because we all are. But what he says is actually from the scriptures themselves, we are God, that God force is within us. And there's no such thing as asking for permission, because we are the one to ask permission about anything. We are the one to allow ourselves to even believe, certain things or not believe them.
And then see what you're saying.
The pearl of great price, and the pearl of great price is actually getting rid of all the second causes. Meaning everything that you believe it's more powerful than you are, that's a second cause. And when you, this is a deep teaching, it's not something that people usually understand overnight. But when you really study his writings, his books, his lectures, and the whole thing, it really, really changes your life. Because not only me, but all my clients, or all the thousands of followers that I have, are saying the same thing. You know, when they discovered this law of assumption, which is really a spiritual law, right? It really changed their lives.
Right. That does make a lot of sense to me, as in, yes, I haven't thought about this before, but yes, I suppose this idea that we are asking in the universe, we are again giving our power away, whereas actually it's within us, which, yeah, okay.
We are giving our power away when we are, doesn't matter how we call it, you know, we call it a God outside of us, or a source, or the universe. Yeah.
It is actually us. And I would believe that wholeheartedly. I suppose maybe from, I know I quite liked the again, another teacher that wasn't in the DVD, The Secret, but Esther Hicks, The Teachings of Abraham.
She was in The Secret.
Well, she was in the original, but she was taken out, wasn't she? She was, she was taken out of the.
She regretted. I remember she regretted being there. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and I liked the way, and that I think that's where I learned it's us. This is our, when we talk about our inner or our higher self or whatever it is, it's still a part of us. But I suppose that is the disconnect, maybe, that we as human beings, we tend to think that it's this thing outside of us that has all power. And what you're trying to teach people then is to say that, no, we all have the power within us, because we are all part of this source, God, whatever.
We are part of that source. Yeah, that source is within us.
Love that.
Yeah,
you're really empowering people. Again, it's this whole thing of, we're waiting to be saved, we're waiting to be helped. And actually, so again, would you call yourself a facilitator for change, to help people understand that the true power lies within them?
Yeah, sure. For example, something that we see a lot in the law of attraction is coaches that love to have clients that are dependent on them. And I know for a fact I have had clients coming from the law of attraction saying that. And I know for a fact, because when I got my certification as a life coach, that's what they teach you. You know, they teach you to have your clients dependent on you. That's one thing I never lacked, even as a law of attraction teacher. Well, if we understand the law of assumption, I could not possibly tell my clients that they need me, because I would be lying to them, and they would know I lied to them if they know the law. Okay. So I am, like you said, facilitating them to understand who they truly are and what they can truly do. And at the same time, I'm teaching them, I don't want to coach you my whole life and your whole life. I don't want to coach you forever. You know, if you understand this thing, eventually you're going to be on your own. You know, you're not going to need it forever. So that alone, it's completely a different way of teaching than when you kind of teach your clients that, oh, if they need that, well, you may want to pay for another session here or there, you know?
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works.
Well, I think that's true for everything, isn't it? I come from a healing background, I suppose. I was a therapist, so you know, I wanted to treat people and for them to be fixed in the shortest period possible. You know, if I could do it in one session, I would try and do it in one session. But again, some people, it just then turns into no, well, you've got to come back and see me. Well, if you've truly healed them, they shouldn't need to. And you've shown them how to not get it back again. They shouldn't need to come back to you. And do you see that this is an issue, I think, throughout the world, with lots of things, with lots of different types of coaches and healers?
I think society in general teaches people to be needy anyway, to always need some external help, you know. So I guess that comes with the culture of all of us. It doesn't matter where we are from, what language we speak. it's society in general all over the world, you know, teach people to be dependent on things, even to be, for example, dependent on the news. Some people feel the need that they have to listen to the news, for example. I haven't listened to the news at all for now 2.5 years.
Wow.
Do I miss on the news? No. If there is something I really need to know, it comes to me. That's another thing, you know.
You can't avoid it. It'll come on Facebook.
First of all, you can't miss it. But purposely putting myself on in front of a screen or on the radio to listen to the news, no, I haven't done that in a while. So yeah, we don't. There's so many things we think we need, but we don't.
No. Oh, I'm with you there. We not this Christmas gone, Christmas before, our TV broke, and I made the decision not to replace it, and I've never been happier. Now, I can watch things. We have a projector against the wall if we want to watch something, you know, but I don't have terrestrial TV. I cannot watch the news if I wanted to, not that I want to.
Exactly.
And I do. I have to admit, I have never been happier. I think even from somebody that I'd never really chosen to watch the news, something that I'm sure used to grate both my parents. They say, you need to be informed. And I'd say,
yeah.
No, I don't.
So I don't, because a lot of those informations are not true anyway. So
no, exactly. But still, I think even just hearing it, you know, even if for a bit, there's some kind of, I'm sure it does something to you anyway, because not having access, I'm a lot happier. So how long ago, when did you go down this route? And can you share with the listeners a little bit about who this teacher is? Because it sounds quite mystical and a little bit out there.
Yeah, it was about 6 years ago when I discovered Neville. Yeah, I was in a very, very bad situation in my life. I had touched bottom pretty much. Financially, relationship wise. The only thing that has been okay for me for my whole life is my health, because I always had a very, very strong assumption about my health, but everything else was a mess. Relationship, finances, it was awful. I was pretty much on the street. I was this close to live on the street, basically, when I discovered Neville. And I think I discovered it because it was something's going to happen, or I want to check out, because I knew that I was not going to accept to be sitting on the side of the road. I knew I was not going to accept that. So since I was living from Airbnb to Airbnb and on my credit card, I knew I was going in a very, I was going down. I was going in a bad place. I knew it was going to be bad. And somehow, that's when I said, okay, if there is a purpose to this life of mine, I want to know it now, because I'm going to check out very soon. Otherwise, I'm not interested in this. Yeah, I was very serious. I was very, very serious. And within 2 months after I had that thought, that's when I discovered Neville.
Wow. But you just touched on something just there.
Yeah.
Like you said, everything else, you're having issues. And the one thing, your health, because you'd always totally assumed that your health is absolutely perfect.
I have a total aversion for doctors. And that's that's the thing. When you understand the law, and I always tell my clients, reverse engineer your life, meaning go back to before you knew the law, right? And think about what you used to assume, what you used to take for granted, what you used to know you had, how it was easy to have those things. And me, since I was a child, I never, and I think I know why, it's because of one thing that my mother said once. And, as children, what your parents say, it goes right into your subconscious mind and it stay there. But in a way, it was a negative statement, but it served me, because that day I decided, doctors are not to be trusted. So I never trusted them. So I kept my health perfect. You know, even reaching an age where, you know, if you want to look at what's going on out there, people start complaining about this and that and the other. Well, I don't have this problem. Never had. Right. I'm the same weight I was when I was 20.
Right. And again, so it is. It's
30 years later.
Wow. And that is that's even just proof in itself in that one story there. That because you just totally. So what are we saying here? When you assume something totally, you have total 100% faith that it is that your health is going to be fine. Whereas, was it then the fear-based? Well, what's going to happen with my finances?
It's kind of both, you know. I think it's the fear of, oh my goodness, if your health is not right, you're dead, because those doctors, they are going to kill you. So somehow it kept me in check. And I see how I react every time I feel, because I'm a human, right? I have felt pain here and there. Every time I feel something, I'm like, I know it's going to get okay. I know it's going to get better. I don't have to worry. I don't have to rush to emergency. I don't have to rush to a doctor. I know I'm okay. I know I'm okay. And I know it. I completely know it. And another thing that I do not have, I have no fear about death also. It's interesting. I have fear about doctors, but I'd rather die on my own. I'm very weird. I'm sorry, but my philosophy is I'd rather die on my own than at the hands of doctors. That's the belief that I created a long time ago. So all together, you know, those weirds may sound very weird for some people, even maybe trigger them somehow. I don't know. But that's what kept me in complete check. I mean, my health, actually the opposite of many people. The more I grew old, the older I grew, the better I felt, as a matter of fact. Because in my 20s, that would be the time I was the more sick in a way. But when I hit 30 and on, it was better and better.
Is that because your belief got stronger and stronger as well, though?
Because actually, I think I created the opposite belief that people create. For example, I remember when I hit about 30 years old, I had friends around my age that were starting to complain about their health already at 30, declining. And I'm like, wow, nowhere, not me. So I created the opposite. When I hit 30, while they were going down, I was going up. I was feeling better and better, better and better.
But isn't it funny? Do you not find that, and I find that it's just, and especially with what's gone on in the last couple of years, it's almost like, it feels like sometimes it's, for some people, it's almost like a competition. Like, who can be iller than the next person? Or like, you know, oh, I had this, and oh, I was dying. I had it so bad. Oh, yes, I had that last week, and I couldn't get. It's almost like they're competing against.
Yeah.
Who could?
I used to have a coach. He used to say people own their disease. You know, they would say, "My diabetes." Really, you want to own this thing? It's yours. You want it? You know, he used to say that. And when he used to say that, me having the type of beliefs that I always have had about health, I was like, wow, yeah, it's so right. You know, those people who love to own their disease. Yes. It's terrible. You should never own a disease. You should never say my and then the name of a disease. Never, ever, ever, ever.
Yeah, I'm similar. I'm very grateful. I don't believe there's going to be anything. Anything happens, I'm on it. I think, well, I know how I'm going to deal with it if something did happen. And I would just, and interestingly enough, going back to what you said about coaches and not wanting, like for you, you don't want to have a long-term client because, you know, we're so hooked
For me,
up
it's more
to
like
this.
showing failure on my part almost. If
Well,
I have
yeah, but it's also this addiction to consumption, consuming things. Because my outlook will always be, you know, if I did feel pain somewhere and something, I thought, something's not right, you know, the first thing I'd do would not be to buy anything, not consume anything. I would go straight into a water fast and allow my body to heal itself. But it's almost like this doesn't want to be a popular belief, because
people eat too much. Definitely, people eat too much.
Yeah, well, I truly, and the more I go, my true belief now is that is possibly the only cause of disease. Eating rubbish and overeating. It just seems, you know, type 2 diabetes, all these things that are probably stemming from type 2 diabetes or metabolic syndrome, and it can be solved through stopping eating. It's so simple, it's crazy, but yet a doctor can never say that they've cured somebody from that, because the medication doesn't doesn't.
They are paid to give you medicine anyway, so they're not really there to save you. Let's put it this way. No. I'm not saying that we don't ever need them, but they are not trained to save you, really. They are trained to give you medicine, to you know, that's what they're trained for. To
keep it going. I remember somebody saying it's like, you know, somebody who's an alcoholic, and instead of them being drunk on 4 pints of beer, now it takes them 8 pints of beer, and the doctor's saying, well, okay, we'll drink 9. I mean, it's just not helping. Just because if your issue is too much sugar and they're just going to give you more insulin so that you can take more sugar, it just, the whole, just even looking at it logically doesn't make any sense. But it's interesting, isn't it, that everything then, you're saying, you're teaching people that actually, if they go within and really have full faith in themselves and their own power, they don't need anything. We're saying, even for our own health, don't consume anything and allow the body to heal itself. We are in such
and you believe also, I have 2 clients who healed from cancer, and one person who's not a client who sent me an email about her story, who healed from a huge tumor in her breast, like the size of a tennis ball, she told me. So plus I know another one who healed from a stomach tumor. I mean, I know many people that I personally or indirectly know, not people that I've heard, you know, that I know more or less directly, who have healed from deadly diseases.
Through the assumption, so
through the belief that they could, through deciding
the belief that it's already done, it's already healed. So it is. So can you explain to the listeners a little bit? Can you go into a bit more detail about what this law of assumption is?
So, like I said, the law of assumption is understanding that consciousness is the only reality. Your consciousness is the only reality, and what creates your consciousness is your self-concept. And your self-concept is what you believe, what you assume, how you perceive things, your expectations. All of that is your self-concept. So, for example, I help a lot of people who have troubles with their relationship. Usually, it's because those people have a law, what we call a law self-concept, especially around themselves. They feel that they are not good enough, or they don't deserve to be loved, or people abandon them, people leave them. So usually when this is part of your self-concept, it's deep down inside you. It's what you believe, what you assume to be true. That's what we call being part of your consciousness. And when you are conscious of something in this life, you manifest it as a mirror in your life. Your life, even people, what people say, how people react towards you, they are only mirroring the content of your consciousness.
Right.
So that's the basic. I don't know if it makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Well, it is. I mean, it is very similar to the, you know, the basis of the law of attraction, that whatever we put out, we're going to get back. So if we're facing something that maybe we don't like, then actually maybe we need to look within, and because maybe it's mirroring something in our own psyche as well.
Yeah.
Which is
it goes much more deeper, but that's the basic.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's quite liberating again, because we are so our society is so conditioned to give our power away.
Yeah, definitely.
It's actually so empowering what you're saying, because, you know, I mean, some of it is quite tough to take on. You know, I'm sure some people will be like,
some people have a very bad reaction at first, and then once they get to understand it better, they accept it more. Yeah.
I mean, I suppose the important thing is to let people know we don't do this deliberately. It's not like we're knowingly wanting to cause ourselves harm. It's not something.
Yeah, we don't do it
as bad people. It doesn't make us. It's you know, a lot of this stuff is fear-based, isn't it? It's not. So it doesn't make us bad. But it's just once we're aware of it, it just means that then we have the power. We're able to actually stop it or change it, or
we can change. The one thing we can do about ourselves is even our deepest beliefs, we can change them. Yes.
Well, belief is just a thought we keep thinking, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's all a belief is. It's a thought that we kept on thinking. Yeah.
And I know most people want an instant change, and maybe it can happen, but in general we need to hear something again and again, and in some cases again and again. I think I'm a bit slow on the
sometimes it happens quite quick, and sometimes it takes some time.
Yeah. But awareness, I suppose, is step one. I'm sure I'm still in awareness for some things. I know it's right, but it's like figuring it out in all areas of your life, right?
Yeah.
So you would call yourself a manifestation coach. So how would you, so the people listening, what would they be tending to come and find you for? What's their goal?
If they have any kind of issues in their lives, relationships, money, self-esteem, career, job, whatever. It could be weight. It could be something physical that they want to change. All type of whatever exists under the sun. You know, when it comes to a person, pretty much, you can definitely help it with the knowledge and the practice of this law. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you work with them?
Well, first of all, most people who reach out to me, they have some type of knowledge already about this law. If they don't, I usually tell them to read the work of Neville Goddard, because it's a very good base. Definitely, he's probably one of the best teacher of this specific thing. And I go case by case. I usually ask them a little bit of their story. I want to understand what they believe about themselves. And then I show them how, in their specific case, they can apply the law to change their concept of self, to change what they believe about themselves. And it's a process, because even if I coach someone for, 10 weeks, my biggest package is 10 weeks, but some people have had me longer than that. It's also a lot of homework. You know, there's a part that I can't teach. So I can teach them the basics. I can give them directions. I can give them exercise, even exercise to get out all the, whatever is bothering them inside. But there's also a part that they have to learn on their own. So I can tell when someone is growing in consciousness is when I feel they understand better and they start feeling better and they start reacting less to their 3D world, as we call it in this community, meaning the third dimension world, like this world here. So the more we read, the more we meditate. Meditation is very important in this. And it doesn't have to be like those very high level professional type meditation. No, none of that. You can simply meditate. There's some very basic meditation that we have. One, it's called the I am meditation, because I am means I am the God of my own reality. So when you meditate like this, just 15 minutes a day, for example, you really go inside and you cut off the world pretty much. You go inside, you read, you learn more about who you truly are. All that thing, eventually over time, it transforms a person. I am not the same person I was even 2 years ago. I grew. Even I keep on growing. We keep on growing.
Absolutely. And this is the thing, is this is the difference between people's expectations of either going to a doctor and giving the, whatever they're suffering from, and expecting a pill or a capsule to fix the problem. And exactly. Actually, even as I've just said that, probably the assumption that it is going to do it probably did more than the drug, right? Because they've given their power away. Whereas, as you say, we know that anything that's going to have any lasting value is going to take time. Nothing's going to come from a one-time event. If they just
there's no magic pill. Some people do want magic pill even in this community, but there's no magic pill.
Well, it's not going to exist. Like I come from healing or physical, exercise and things. And again, I think I said this last week, was you can't expect to get a six-pack and lose 2 stone from your first workout. Exactly. As much as there are these universal laws that, maybe if we knew how to, but again, there are still other natural laws that mean it takes time for the muscle to, there's a natural gestation period for everything, not just 9 months to create a baby, but it's still going to take, 3 months to change the shape of your body. So for people to have this expectation that they want to go and get something fixed and it being instant, but as you say, I suppose you can take a horse to water, but if they're going to do a meditation once, they'll get some benefit from it. But if they're going to do it daily over time,
big difference. It's not how much you do, is more, do you do it every day? That's way more powerful to do something just a few minutes every day than to do nothing and then 3 months later do a whole day of that, What really matters, and I see it for myself, it's when I do something, even a short time, but every single day, and I don't stop, and I do it, and I do it, and I do it. And that's what pays off. And I don't have much time. So I meditate about 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day, no more than that, but it makes a huge difference for me.
Right.
Just doing that short meditation every day.
And so again, it's funny that even, like I say about fasting, I love I'm an absolute believer.
I love
fasting, but the meditation is the same thing for the mind, though, isn't it? Fasting is not having.
It's cutting off the food, and meditation is cutting off the thoughts.
And so it's just so fascinating, isn't it? It's like we've been conditioned, we've been brought up to believe that we are in charge. Our ego, we're in control of everything. And actually it's when we release that control, so stop all that chitter chatter, meditate, even better if you fast, because you're allowing, it's just amazing the power of the body, the power to heal physically and mentally then. It's pretty, but it's not making any money, Sylviane. We can't be advocating this because nobody's making money. It's not good advice, but it's true, isn't it? You know, really, the power.
Right. We're not scammers, at least.
Isn't it? It's just actually the reality is you want to heal from anything. The best thing is to just stop.
yeah, exactly. That's so true. What you
and trust the power of this vessel that we're in. I find it's such a fascinating subject for me, but we do need facilitators. We do need to learn from people like you because it is obviously because it goes against what we've learned throughout childhood, school.
Yeah.
And it is so different. I'm sure for some people they're like, what are you saying, guys? So it is about, and just like you say, learning something, even if they were just to read a couple of chapters of a book every single day, to just, that is how we learn, right? Spaced repetition. We're never going to, we're so distracted. You could watch a film. Oh, I'm terrible. If I was to watch a film, I've forgotten it the next day. I could have, discussions with my children. I'm like, I haven't watched that. They're like, yes, Mum, you have. I haven't. No, I haven't. Well, I've only watched it once, right? This is why I think that it was so powerful about being advised to watch The Secret twice a day for a month. I have to say I've never watched anything like that since. I've never watched anything 60 times. And we did do that. And I do truly believe, there is, I suppose, the case of that focused attention. We watch them and that's an hour and a half long. So that's 3 hours out of our day, every day for a whole month. So the whole focus, and we're taught that what we focus on, we bring more of. So there is that aspect as well as the hearing it again and again and again until it becomes into our subconscious. And that's how we pretty much go throughout our day, isn't it? Through on autopilot.
Yeah. But what you keep on digesting, through your eyes and ears, it's going to affect you. It is.
Absolutely. And you hear stuff you didn't hear before. We, at the end of the day, us as human beings, we do tend to want to save energy. So just because we hear something or we're listening to it doesn't mean we're hearing it, does it? So we might hear part of it. The next time we watch it, we think, I don't remember hearing that. It's because you switched off.
True.
So the more we do it, the more we listen to it. I'm a believer in that. We're not going to learn from a one-time event. It is only from that.
No, we are very, humans. We are distracted very easily. So that's why we need more than once. Yeah. Well, I can see with, my clients and followers, sometimes I have to tell them the same thing quite a few times, and sometimes they still, I feel like, they haven't got it yet. So it's not to pinpoint anyone, but that's how we are as humans, we think children are like that. No, adults are like that, even more maybe. We need to be repeated things constantly, especially if it goes against our old beliefs, what we used to believe, what we used to assume to be true. So those things need to be repeated quite a few times, because I notice how I have to repeat myself quite a bit.
And there's nothing wrong in that. It's interesting.
No, it's not a critique. It's just I'm just seeing what's happening. It's just
because it is. It's like almost. I find that some people. It's almost they're looking for the, you know, the answers. Shiny object syndrome. They're looking, and actually all the information was there, but you have to work with it. It's not the case of looking for the next thing and oh, well, maybe this. No, it's actually learning to take action on what you have learned rather than continually searching out for something else.
Very true. Yeah. Some people do that, you know, instead of focusing on one thing and just go for it, they try for 5 minutes and then they say, oh, it's not working. What else? What else can I do? Nothing. You just haven't done what you were supposed to do long enough. That's it. There's nothing else to do. No.
Well, I know I do this as well. It's I suppose we do have a tendency to overcomplicate things, you know. And actually,
very true.
Even what you're saying there, everything is actually, rather than add to, take off. Actually, because it's actually simpler.
Exactly. Yeah, you're so right. Yes.
Simpler than we
think. A lot of times we need to take off more than we need to add on.
Yeah, and I know I can really overcomplicate things, and it's a lesson that I keep trying to repeat to myself. So that it's
we all learn, you know, it's a journey. We all learn the best we can, and try to apply as much as we can.
So what can you share with the audience? How did your transformation take place? How did it evolve? What you know, back then you were close to being homeless before you were introduced to this. So can you share a little bit of your story there?
Yeah. So when I understood about self-concept, and by reading Neville's work, I realized that I had manifested my whole life, all my misery, all my bad to abusive relationships, everything. I had created it. And if I had created it, it's because there was some issues with my self-concept. So I worked on that. I used affirmations. Back then, I use much less affirmations now because I grew up in consciousness, like I said, and the more you grow in that sense, the less you feel the need to affirm things with your mouth. But back then, I have to say, it did help me. Back then, I was not strong enough to imagine, because the main thing that we use in the law of assumption is our imagination. We imagine and feel what we want to be and have. But back then, I was not strong enough to imagine. So I had to use, you know, like when you break a leg, you have to use a crutch, right? You can't walk. So that was my crutches, were my affirmations. I affirmed in front of a mirror a lot. I affirmed doing EFT. I don't know if you know, tapping. It was really, I've done that for years, by the way. For years, tapping has really helped me a lot. So with that, I created a new story. I started saying the best of the best about myself, that I was the best, that I was a queen and a goddess. And I didn't care what I was saying. Nobody heard me, right? It was just for me to rise my self-concept.
Right.
So that I did that for 2 years. But before that, before 2 years, within 2 months, I started seeing a shift. I started making money. Finally, pretty much, I can say really for the first time of my life, making good money, money was starting coming in my life. And then meeting, the love of my life. So things really did change. But by the time it changed, on and off, it was about a couple of years where every day, every single day, I would do those tapping and affirmation and mirror work, because back then that's what I knew to do the most.
Right. So you created some new habits.
Yeah, definitely. New habits and new mindset, most of all. I shifted. I really actually had the conscious decision, I do not want to be that person anymore. Whoever I was, I don't want to be that person anymore. I used to use a very strong, specific word. I'm not going to say it. But for me, that word meant, yeah, I don't want to be this anymore. She's dead. She's dead. And I'm reborn.
Right.
And I was reborn as a complete different person. And my world started showing that to me. Definitely, most of all, who is in the world? People, right? So people started reflecting my inner self completely differently. I used to manifest all type of backstabbers and betrayers and people taking advantage of me, turning on me. That was my pattern. So that alone, when I noticed people I started creating different people in my world. And that showed me, oh yeah, you have changed, because now you have people who love you, who appreciate you. It's completely different.
Right. And it does sound like it is I suppose we do tend to react to things, people, whatever. And when we actually make the conscious decision to change, so then actually we start the process, right? So then we are the creator, because now we've created something new, and then the bounce back from that is what. So it really does sound like it's. Yeah. Most people are just bouncing through life, just reacting to things.
Yeah. And unconsciously, people, when you have a victim mentality, like I used to have a victim mentality. People, it's completely unconscious. They're not conscious of it, but people feel it unconsciously, subconsciously. Like a dog, if you're scared of a dog, most likely he's going to bite you. How? You haven't told him, I'm scared of you. The dog feels it. Yeah, and you actually activate his aggression. You're scared, therefore, well, there must be a reason why they're scared. I should bite them, right? People do exactly the same as dogs. We're not any superior in that regard, frankly. Where subconsciously, when we have a victim in front of us, subconsciously we want to be mean to that person, because that by law, that's how it works. You feel like you're a victim. You're going to manifest in your world people that are going to, well, victimize you in one way or another. I was a professional at that. I manifested really bad situation with people. Sometimes they were not even bad at the beginning, but I would change them. I can see that as clear as day now. Wow. So when I changed that victimhood, when I really killed that victim person that I didn't want to be anymore, yeah, people, therefore, again, unconsciously, but they did not treat me as a victim anymore. They treated me as the opposite, someone interesting, someone valuable, someone, well, better not mess with her. Completely differently.
So again, it's the energy you're giving off. So, going back to, like when you say about the vibration, that is you're vibing in a different frequency. The vibration that you're putting out there into the world is on a different frequency. Down there is being a victim, and so you're attracting only people that are down there. And it's funny, isn't it? And I get it. Some people might hear this and feel like we're putting them down, and it's not a conscious thing, is it? It's not, when even if we have been a victim, it's not a conscious thing. We're not saying, right, I'm going to continue being a victim.
Exactly. No, it's not.
But it's what we're trying to share then, listeners, is that you can change it, but it's got to come from you, right? Mm-hmm. It's got to come from you.
The only reason you can't is if you don't want to. Okay, if you find a ton of excuses, I can't because of this or that. But really, if you want to change, if you are tired of yourself enough, like I was, you can change. Yeah.
So for those, depending on where you're seeing this, guys, if you're on YouTube, you'll have all the links below. If you're just hearing this, Sylviane, how can people get in touch with you?
So the best way to get in touch with me is, my name is a little bit complicated, depending on where you're from. Well, my first name is French and is not that common, and my last name is Italian, so that's why it's maybe a little bit complicated. But it's my name. If you type my name, you'll find everything I ever done, actually. Online. But yeah, my site is mine, manifesting. Actually, yeah, if you just my first name, manifestingwithsylviane.com.
Manifestingwithsylviane.com.
Yeah, so that's easy enough. And from there, they can find everything. I have a podcast. I have a Facebook, 2 Facebook groups, one paid, one free. I have a YouTube channel. And when you find my site, you can find everything, even my email to email me.
Fantastic. So. Okay. So yes, I was thinking that was it. How do you pronounce your surname?
Sylviane. Yeah.
And how do you pronounce your surname? Sylviane?
Oh, Nuccio.
It is Nuccio. Okay.
Yeah, that's Italian. Yeah, my father is Italian.
Oh, okay. Okay. I love Italy. I lived in Naples for a while, and I lived in Milan for a while.
Oh yeah, you lived there, so you speak some Italian?
Yeah. Right. I've spent a long time in Spain. I've spent a long time in Italy. I've spent a long time in Portugal. So my Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese tends to
mix.
Yeah, I can start in one language and end in another and be completely confused by the whole lot. So they're too similar. I
do not speak Italian. I do understand quite a bit, yeah, but I do not even speak Italian. But my name is Italian because my father was from there.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I would like to
thank you
again to the listeners. Can you spell them? Then because I'm going to get the book. What book would you recommend people start out with?
Oh, okay. The first book from Neville is "Feeling is the Secret." The first one to read. I think so. You'll have a little of a good idea about the law of assumption. And the second one would be The Power of Awareness.
Ooh.
And in there, but it's, I think if you are new at this, you need to read Feeling is the Secret first, because it's easier to grasp. And then you can read the other. But he has 12 books. So.
Wow. Yeah, no, I would consider myself a student of it all. I absolutely love it all. It resonates with me fully, and I do think, and I'm very grateful that I did watch The Secret 60 times, because again, I've heard people,
you know it by heart.
Well, it's just so, and he was right. There is so much depth to it, because I think a lot of people might read the book once or watch the film and think that, oh, well, they're just saying, ask the universe for this and it's going to appear. I think they misinterpret what they were trying to say. And some of the other teachers, I'm trying to think, what's his name? Mike Dooley was very much about that. It's got to be the feeling. It's not about what you say. It's got to
the
be
feeling, number one.
How you feel. It's and even that, I think a lot of people misunderstood. They think, oh, right, I've got to think these things and that's going to affect. Well, no, it's not so much the thought, but it's the actual it is the feeling place of the thought. It's like we were talking last week about water, how we talk to ourselves and the effect it has on us, because we are primarily water, right? And when they photographed water crystals and saying the good things are perfect crystals and saying bad things, they're all deformed and awful. And it is all, again, it's all the same thing. So it's not the thought, it's the intention, it's the feeling place behind it. It makes so much sense. And I do think that's where people misunderstand the secrets. Even down to
even in the manifesting community, people still don't grab that sometimes easily, that they have to feel it. So sometimes they're like, what affirmation should I say? Well, your affirmation, they should lead you to that anyway. It should lead you to feel eventually. Because
feeling, and the same with gratitude.
Robot, that's not working.
Yes, it's not going to work, right? Even your gratitude list. You can speak your gratitude, but if you don't have those feelings of gratitude, it's not working. So, yeah, absolutely wonderful. I think I will do that, or come and join your Facebook community as well, because this is something that resonates with me fully.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time.
Be sure to send me the link to this.
I will do, of course. And to the listeners, thank you so much for listening, and I will be back next week with a Coffee with Karen.
Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical, and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.